is the Florida Congressional District or Townhall, served by Congressman Aaron Bean. I would just like to start by saying I invited Congressman Bean to this event. I was hopeful that he might come. As many of you know, he is currently in Washington. My intention on scheduling this meeting when I did was because I was told by Congressman Bean's office that there are no future town halls scheduled. The congressional session is starting and votes are happening. We're about to embark on spring break, and I didn't want any more time to get in front of us before people could engage with Congressman Bean. So that's why we are here. I invited him several weeks ago. So at 3:40 this afternoon, I got a video from Congressman Bean.
Hello, Northeast Florida. It's your Congressman Aaron Bean at work in Washington, D.C. It's an exciting day in Washington, D.C. I don't know if you can turn the camera. The Irish Prime Minister is meeting with members of Congress, and I believe J.D. Vance, our Vice President, is also meeting with them. So it's an exciting day. Big things are happening. Yesterday, we passed a bill in this body to keep the government open. It now goes to the other body in the Senate. And so great things are happening. I think there's great momentum. We continue to eliminate waste, fraud, and abuse, and that is my mission. That is my mission. I want to clarify something. Right now, I know there's Democrats holding a town hall meeting, and I want you to hear the truth, Northeast Florida. I am on a mission to preserve, not cut, preserve Social Security. I'm on a mission to preserve Medicare. We can make those more efficient without interrupting benefits. So you're hearing it from me. Don't believe any of the hype. Don't believe all the what's going on out there. The other side has to use fear, and you know what? That's not going to accomplish a lot of things. So you heard it from me first. We are honoring the promises made, but to do that, we're running out of money. Government up here is addicted to spending, and so that has to stop. It's really difficult, and you've heard me say the swamp will not go quietly into the night, and so it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard having a government we can afford, but we have to do it for our kids and grandkids. So big work continues to play. I look forward. You know what? Why don't you contact me, bean.house.gov. You can sign up for my newsletter. Many of you are asking, what 5 things have I done? I'm so glad you asked. We send out a newsletter almost every week telling you exactly what we've done. Clips from me in committee. What am I doing? Who am I meeting with? What's going on in Florida and the nation. Sign up for our newsletter. We'd love to keep you informed, as well as real town halls that we do every month. We're doing a town hall and where we're visiting. So thank you. You've given me the greatest honor of serving you as your congressman, but there's work to be done. I intend on getting it done. Let's go get them.
But I would like to say that all of this information came directly from Congressman Bean's website, his Facebook page, his Twitter feed, and the House Congressional House.gov for the bills that I'm going to be talking about tonight. So this is all information that I would hope if Congressman Bean was here, he'd be sharing with you himself. But I'll kind of give this over. It's going to be just a few minutes, and then we'll go into the portion where you guys can comment and share your concerns and ask questions. Okay, so this slide is called Purpose. Town halls are an important platform for communication and transparency, allowing constituents to directly engage with leaders and ask questions and share concerns on important issues, thus fostering a sense of community and building trust with the public, essentially giving people a voice and enabling better decision-making by providing valuable feedback. In-person town halls are infrequent or in some cases non-existent. Recently, congressional Republican leadership has encouraged their members to completely avoid town halls. I wanted to use this opportunity to update our community on the actions that are happening in CD4. This is an introduction slide for Congressman Aaron Bean. He's currently serving in the House of Representatives in Florida's 4th Congressional District since 2022. He served in the Florida Senate in the 4th District from 2012 to 2022. In the Florida House 12th District 2000 to 2008. He was also a Fernandina Beach City Commissioner and Mayor from 1996 to 2000. So that is 25 years in public office. He currently serves on the following committees and caucuses. He's the co-chair and founder of the DOGE caucus, the Committee on Ways and Means, the Subcommittee on Social Security, Subcommittee on Work and Welfare, and Subcommittee on Oversight. Okay, this slide talks about the different forms of outreach that Congressman Bean utilizes. These include social media posts, telephone town halls with pre-screened questions, email newsletters, in-person individual meetings, speaking engagements and appearances, and in-person and on TV. However, to date, there have been no public in-person town hall events since August of 2023, and none are currently scheduled. I wish you could see these slides. There's some social media posts. There's Congressman Bean with the Stanley Cup. There's Congressman Bean celebrating Trump hamburgers, celebrating National Girls and Women's Day of Sports, celebrating National Law Enforcement Appreciation Day, celebrating school choice. Periodically, Congressman Bean emails a newsletter comprised of highlights since his last message. The latest edition includes photo ops with notable people like Elon Musk, RFK Jr., and House Speaker Mike Johnson. Also included are legislative updates passed in the House. Most recently, Congressman Bean voted for the following resolutions. HJ Res 42, a resolution to overturn regulation requiring everyday home appliances to meet energy conservation standards. HJ Res 61 nullifies the Environmental Protection Agency rule titled National Emission Standards for Hazardous Air Pollutants with Rubber Tire Manufacturing. SJ Res 11 reverses the Bureau of Ocean Energy Management titled Protection of Marine Archaeological Resources that requires operators and lessees conducting oil and gas exploration or development on the outer continental shelf to provide the BOEM with archaeological report for the area of potential effects. And he also voted to support House Resolution 189, censuring Representative Al Green of Texas. Congressman Bean also offers telephone town halls. A dial-in number is provided to hear the congressman live. Listeners are invited. Live. The listeners are invited to preemptively provide a question to be asked, although the questions are carefully screened rather than in an open forum. This slide here shows Congressman Bean. Again, these are from his Facebook page and website. Congressman Bean often takes meetings with various organizations who may be visiting Washington, D.C., like the Florida Medical Association, the Florida Credit Union, the American Sugar Alliance, Florida Bankers Association. And in addition to his D.C. office, he has district office locations here in Fernandina Beach, one in Duval, and one in Clay County. So Congressman Bean is often invited to speak to groups in D.C. and in our district. Business organizations, nonprofits, school groups, and political organizations are just some of the events where the congressman might speak. Sometimes he is asked to MC as an auctioneer or, as he self-proclaims, a game show host. This is the places that Congressman Bean very often makes appearances on TV. He is a regular on conservative news and programming and similarly based podcasts. Some outlets include OAN, Newsmax, and Fox News, with appearances with former Representative Matt Gaetz, Chris Salcedo, and Todd Starnes. This slide so we talked about the things that Congressman Bean has already voted on in the last week, the first week of the congressional session. He has also sponsored some legislation, and I want to share that with you. House Resolution 1654, to rescind unobligated COVID-19 relief funds and certain infrastructure funds to offset the cost of supplemental foreign assistance made available for fiscal year 2024 and other purposes. And just a note here, we're just across the way from our historic lighthouse, where Congressman Bean was able to secure almost $1 million in restoration of that lighthouse that came from those infrastructure funds from the federal government. House Resolution 1554, to require that the federal government procure from the private sector the goods and services necessary for operations and management of certain government agencies and for other purposes. This privatizes quite a few agencies. House Resolution 1280, to require the head of each executive agency to relocate 30% of all employees assigned to the headquarters of the executive agency to duty stations, the Washington metropolitan area, and for other purposes. So moving people outside of Washington for their jobs. House Resolution 1279, to amend Title 19 of the Social Security Act to establish a community engagement requirement for certain individuals under the Medicaid program. This is a provision that requires certain people to work if they are so required. But the full text of that amendment was not available when I put this together. House Resolution 1049, Transparency in Reporting of Adversarial Contributions to Education Act. This is something that was being addressed locally by the Citizens Defending Freedom group, if you're familiar with them. House Resolution 178, Put Your Money Where Your Mouth Is resolution. This bill suggests that each representative cut their staff budget by $100,000. Congressional members make about $175,000 a year in salary, and their offices have anywhere from $1.8 to $2 million for their offices and their staff and their events that they do. So that is what Congressman Bean has sponsored so far. So this next slide is the DOGE slide. And you're missing photos with Congressman Bean with Elon Musk with his chainsaw. Congressman Bean states, as founder and co-chair of the Congressional DOGE caucus, I am eager to continue working together to improve government efficiency and get America back on track. In January, Congressman Bean notes cuts being made by memos from Musk's DOGE team does not apply to individual assistance programs, including food stamps, Medicaid, Social Security, or welfare. I have the logos of the following federal agencies: the Veterans Administration, OSHA, NOAA, the Internal Revenue Service, United States Agency International Development, which is USAID, the FDA, the National Institute of Health, Small Business Administration, National Park Services, the Centers for Disease Control, the National Nuclear Safety Administration, the Social Security Administration, the Federal Emergency Management Administration, and the Federal Aviation Administration. I noted these in particular because these agencies have been some of the hardest hit, but they are also prevalent in our community in large ways. So many of us are affected by those agencies. According to Forbes magazine, DOGE cuts have or will be made to the following agencies: NOAA, laying off approximately 1,000 workers on top of 1,300 workers that have already been laid off. affecting the agency's weather forecasting and work ahead of hurricane season and other potential natural disasters. The Department of Veterans Affairs, which will require removing around 80,000 positions. The Internal Revenue Service. The IRS was preparing to reduce its workforce by about 50% through layoffs and buyouts and set to close out more than 110 offices in February at peak tax season.
Follow the money. Tax the rich.
USAID, they shut down the agency, firing or placing on leave 5,600 workers and freezing foreign assets for USAID. The Social Security Administration has been instructed to cut its workforce in half and closing local offices.
They can't serve now.
So when they say they're not coming for your money, they are coming for the services that serve you with that money. FEMA, identifying employees who work or worked on climate, environmental justice, equity, or DEIA initiatives for potential firings that impact the majority of staff. Trump has suggested previously that he wants to eliminate FEMA entirely, and DOGE is conducting a review of FEMA operations. Health agencies, some 5,200 employees across the National Institutes of Health and the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention are being targeted for layoffs. Employees at the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services and the Food and Drug Administration are also being laid off. The National Nuclear Safety Administration, which oversees nuclear weapons in the United States, about 300 of the agency's staff through the Trump administration, they're now trying to get those people back after they've fired them. The Federal Aviation Administration, about 400 people from the FAA were terminated in mid-February, just weeks after the fatal collision over the Potomac River that killed 67 people, with the layoffs including some safety-specific roles. This slide is here to talk about the budget, and I've indicated many of those agencies that I had already spoken about. The vote happened last night, so I'm going to read from my list, but the language might change just a little. Last night, the House voted on a continuing resolution to fund the federal government for the remainder of the fiscal year that ends on September 30th. The bill does not include congressionally directed spending for the specific projects that are usually specified in funding bills outlining congressional priorities. There's also a provision that would preemptively surrender congressional authority to block tariffs. 4,829 projects designated by House members are in jeopardy. The bill omits a joint explanatory statement outlining congressional priority spending items. This omission gives the Trump administration and Elon Musk greater ability to cut and reallocate spending across federal programs. In the Department of Veteran Affairs, funding levels for veterans, homelessness assistance grants, mental health care, rural health, opioid and substance abuse programs, some oncology programs, and caregiver support would not be specified. The Department of Veterans Affairs could redirect those funds for other purposes or eliminate them, spending expected to increase based on last year by a $6 billion shortfall. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, funding currently allocated to more than 130 public health programs and activities currently specified by Congress, would be allocated to 13 broad public health categories, shifting control over public health priorities from Congress to the administration. For the National Institutes of Health, current congressional directives for research on cancer, Alzheimer's disease, ALS, heart disease, diabetes, kidney disease, mental health, maternal mortality, infectious diseases, genetic diseases, rare diseases, and many other health conditions would disappear. Funding would be cut by $280 million for cancer research. From a global health perspective, funding for specific diseases and health responses such as malaria, tuberculosis, nutrition, and global health security would remain unspecified, giving broad discretion to the Trump administration. Health and education programs for underserved populations. Programs such as health, workforce training, minority and women's health, and historically Black colleges and universities and Hispanic serving institutions are at risk. The Environmental Protection Agency, funding levels for the EPA would not be specified, creating the potential to eliminate funding for climate change, environmental justice, or research on forever chemicals. In the Small Business Administration, programs that benefit veteran-owned small businesses and service disabled veteran-owned small businesses could be cut or eliminated. The Corps of Engineers civil work projects, all funding levels would be at the discretion of the Trump administration, including $7 billion for over 1,000 projects that would otherwise be directed by Congress. This includes projects to keep our waterways safe, manage flood and risk, and restore ecosystems. This would allow the Trump administration to grant Elon Musk's Starlink project $3 billion contract for FAA telecommunications without public transparency, fair competition, or congressional oversight. Women, infants, and children, also known as WIC, funding for this food program is expected to suffer a $700 million shortfall due to higher food costs, which is likely the result in wait lists to receive benefits. The Disaster Relief Fund will experience a funding shortfall to address current and future disasters with upcoming hurricane season facing Florida and other southern states. The Department of Commerce. The Trump administration would have broad discretion to eliminate individual programs over NOAA. This includes programs impacting coastal areas and research for improvements and forecasting severe weather. As a citizen, I won't be doing that tonight, but I would like to take a point of personal privilege to say what is so egregious about the House vote that happened last night. The beauty in our Constitution, there are many, but one in particular is the separation of powers. And last night, every Republican representative and one Democratic representative abdicated their power to the administration. Therefore, in my opinion, it's a dereliction of their duty. It is a failure to uphold their oath that they promised. And they're forcing now the Senate to be there to take a vote with no amendments. What I would like to do now is offer all of you an opportunity to speak to some of these issues. Maybe you have other issues that we did not talk about. This is a way for other people in our community to hear your concerns. I know Congressman Bean and his staff are watching. I know that they will hear these concerns and they need to. So if you are willing to speak, I would love that. And if you are not ready to talk in public and you want to write your question down, make sure to leave it in the back. But at this point, I would like to call numbers 1 through 5 if you took a speaking number.
Ken Walker, 222 Division Street, Fernandina Beach, Florida. Pretty much a lifelong resident of Nassau County. Been in Fernandina about 30 years, graduated public high school. public college, University of Georgia, University of North Florida, got my graduate's degree. And just to be specific and answer a question, ask a question that possibly could be answered, they started talking about tariffs and tariffs. Well, I said, well, I looked it up and I said, well, I remember talking about this either in high school or an economics class in college or something. But specifically, the Smoot-Hawley Act came up from 1930, and not all, but a majority of the economic experts, which, you know, that all of them can't be right, can't be wrong, were against it. Herbert Hoover, a couple of his friends, they signed it into law. The Smoot-Hawley Act, without a doubt, made the Depression worse. All right, what's the difference between the tariffs that were proposed then and what we're trying to do today? And I'd like a reasonable explanation that, you know, please convince me that all these tariffs are a good idea. And I could go on, I could talk all night.
There are so many things that could be talked about, but I'm going to talk from experience after I retired here 13 years ago after serving 13 years at the Library of Congress on Capitol Hill. I'm Peggy Bulger, 1949 Springbrook Road, Fernandina Beach, Florida. Is that it? Okay. I had to write this down. Anyway, like I said, my biggest worry is that we know that there is not massive fraud in the government. And I know this from experience. You know that there's going to be some, you know, it's just a big animal. But here's the problem. They are not interested in finding that fraud. They're interested in making it impossible for the government to work so that everybody will say, look at that, the government doesn't work. Let's get something else. So we have a bunch of 20-year-old techies, and Elon Musk, there's something really, really disgusting to see the most richest person in the world with a chainsaw gloating over firing people indiscriminately just because. I wanted Aaron Bean to be here because I want him to answer. He is the co-chair of the DOGE committee. And this is DOGE.
He's scared.
Den of greedy egotists.
I'm Carla Boyford, 6183 Caesars Avenue, and I actually live in Yulee. Trump used the International Emergency Economics Powers Act to implement all these tariffs that are screwing with everybody's 401k and the stock market and everything else. But there is a provision in that says that someone can introduce a resolution and Congress has 15 days to vote on that resolution as to whether to stop the emergency. Well, a Democrat back on March 6th did such a thing, which started the clock. But yesterday, in that lovely little budget bill they passed, they added a little proviso. Each day for the remainder of the first session of the 119th Congress shall not constitute a calendar day for the purpose of this.
Fraud. Yes, fraud.
And terminating it.
We found the
I
fraud.
want to know how many days are you going to work this year? Because if it's only one day, stop, go. So that's what I want to know. Why is one day going to last 8 months?
Yeah.
everyone. My name is Nicole Cressy, 2408 First Avenue. Thank you for organizing this. It's a shame we can't speak to Congressman Bean directly. I am a 9-year resident of Fernandina Beach. Before that, I was a Peace Corps volunteer. I would have hit 14 years working for the largest implementing partner for USAID in July. I have joined more than 700 of my American colleagues who were furloughed at the beginning of this month. We had 96 of 104 contracts terminated in the month of February. So it's been heartbreaking to see. I returned on the 28th of February after a 4-month assignment in Ukraine and had to tell my teammates who have been hunted down that we don't have projects anymore, that the U.S. is turning their back on allies, and it is shameful. I have had coworkers who are pregnant and furloughed. I have coworkers who are selling their houses. I have coworkers who, because we are an employee-owned company, have lost their retirement with our ESOP. My company is celebrating 50 years, and we have lost 90% of our business. The U.S. government owed us $180 million that was still not paid. We had invoices due from October of last year. The deadline for payment was not regarded. We had, as of yesterday, gotten approximately $60 million. We had over the remainder due. And even the waivers that have been issued mean nothing because no one is getting paid. This means businesses are closing. This means hundreds of thousands of American employees in the U.S. and abroad are losing their jobs. This is not just government workers. This is the contractors, the subcontractors, the nonprofits. This is countless people overseas, and it's heart-wrenching to see. I just want to reiterate, right, like the Agency for International Development is a less than 1% of taxpayer funding that goes to do incredible good around the world in the interests of the American people. This has always been the case. I have done this personally for 14 years. We have supported stabilization in the Northern Triangle so that people are not illegally immigrating here because they're getting murdered in their villages and their towns. We have helped move people away from producing coca to alternative development. We have supported war zones. I have spent 2.5 years in war zones helping the U.S. government support other governments for stability to make a safer, stronger, more prosperous world and America, and that has been gutted. On January 25th, there was an executive order to stop work on all USAID projects around the world. This is not as simple as shutting off the lights. This is people's lives and livelihoods. And there was no instruction. USAID staff have been put on administrative leave. They have not been able to communicate with contractors. There has been no guidance of how this works. My contracts, I personally oversee 3 contracts. They were terminated on February 12th, February 13th, and February 25th. And we literally got 2 sentences that said our projects were terminated in the interest of the administration and their priorities. These are congressionally appropriated funds that were done by Congressman Bean and many other congressmen around the world.
Hire them back! Amen.
This has been arbitrary. There has been no evaluation. There have been no payments. They have shut down the website that has transparency for USAID. They have fired the inspectors general who do the audits. They have fired and not allowed the USAID workers to do their jobs. They have cut down the payment system to move it over to the State Department, which is not constitutionally allowed. Like, this is not in the news. I am telling you, I have lived this personally. This is not okay. And my projects, economic development, supporting businesses. My project in Ukraine supported over 8,000 businesses through COVID and the war. We created 100,000 jobs. We were on track to generate $1 billion in sales and have supported over $250 million in tax revenue for the government of Ukraine so that they can support their people and their military. We also supported linkages with 1,000 American businesses. These projects create stability. They create opportunities. They reduce maternal and prenatal mortality. They stop pandemics. They create stable neighbors and economies and markets for us. What has happened? I can tell you now because I have lived this and seen it. Trust in America is gone.
Yeah.
It is gone. You've heard about soft power. This is the reality. Diplomacy is a huge part of this. Military is a part of this where it is needed, and assistance is another part. It creates partners around the world, and that has been gutted. The cuts to US aid mean cuts to the UN. They mean that the British government is also cutting their funding. This will literally result in hundreds of thousands of deaths for people who are receiving life-saving support around the world, and it will give way for malign interest, Russia and China, which is not okay. I just want to put this into perspective. I did the numbers for 2023. It is $160 a year per taxpayer that funds all of USAID work. $160 a year per taxpayer. That is what we are fighting over.
Thank you.
So I'll wrap up because I've gone too long, I'm sorry. There's a lot that people don't know because there's misinformation happening. I think that this is really unfortunate to see. I'm frustrated that Congressman Bean isn't here. So my message to you is, why are you supporting the unconstitutional dismantling of congressionally appropriated funds and agencies? Why are you not upholding your sworn duty to the Constitution of America and supporting the American people? You do not work for Trump. You do not work for Musk. You work for all of us. Congressman Bean, if you are unwilling or unfit to do your job, we're happy to find a replacement in the next session.
Richard Billings. I live at 96216 Marsh Lakes Drive. So I'm over the bridge, but I'm still part of District 4. Nicole, well done. I can't top that. I just want two sides of my little speech. I've known Aaron Bean since the mid to late 90s, and he's a good guy. But there's two parts of him. There's a good guy, and there's a representative. But he's a good guy. He's an auctioneer. He was a banker. He helped out the soccer league, the softball league, whatever else. But he's been an asset to the community. Okay, that's a side. That's his compliment. I want to know, I'm not going to give you guys any speeches. I had specific questions that I knew Aaron was not going to be here. But I was hoping one of his aides would be here. So I'm disappointed. But he's a good guy. You got my name right? These two gals work for Aaron Bean. So raise your hand. Okay, that was a miscue on my part. But what I had hoped to ask Aaron Bean, but I knew he wasn't going to be here, one of his aides, what is your position on all these federal budget cuts, eliminations of jobs, etc. I wanted to know, and I still want to know that answer, not tonight, but I hope he can email me. What is your position? Second part of my question, how does the federal job cuts affect Nassau County? FAA, how many people in Nassau County were affected? And you guys can probably think of other federal agencies. VA, thank you. So how many VA employees? Education. So I want to know how many people in our Department of Education or teachers or whatever are affected in Nassau County, which is what Aaron is representing. But he's a good guy. Thank you very much.
I live at 4104 Fernandina Beach. Thank you for putting this on. Thank all of you for turning out and voicing what needs to be voiced all across this country.
Yes.
Because what is happening in our country is a disgrace. It's an absolute disgrace.
We're better than that.
Yes, we are.
Yes, we are.
Very much so.
And we've got to return to those values that we all grew up with. And you've heard about the outrageous DOGE cuts where we remove air traffic controllers, got to be rehired, we've got a shortage. The nuclear safety people that we need to keep our country safe and protect us from materials that need to be in good hands and not fall into bad hands. And there's farmers that had to cry to get the climate reports back so they knew when to plant the crops. That's the kind of chaos that has been created.
They don't care.
But the other thing that is really long-term damage is the despicable treatment of the federal workforce. They make a lot more money doing other things, but they live in public service. And they receive notices that their job performance has been, and it's bull. They've gotten outstanding reviews on their probationary status, and they've still been received these notices. So we all need to come to grips with the federal deficit, okay? We can't go on like we are as a country.
Right.
But DOGE is a half-assed way of doing it.
It's not the answer. No plan.
Not a bunch of keyboard cowboys. The job is Congress. That's what you elected Congress to do. To put together a budget, to look at things in a thoughtful way.
Quit
Look at
giving
the consequences.
taxpayers
Well,
billionaires tax cuts.
So, so I'm glad you brought up tax cuts. So, Congressman Bean always talks about tax reduction. He voted for a budget resolution that would cut taxes by 4.5 trillion with a T. It calls for spending cuts of 2 trillion. Now, I didn't go to Ivy League school, but that's a $2 trillion add to the federal deficit. And he's the deficit reduction warrior? Start telling the truth, okay? Start telling the truth. Start walking the talk. So tariffs, I'm glad somebody asked the question about tariffs. That history lesson about Smalley is worth looking at. All of you got 401ks or other investments. How have they been working out for you in the last couple of weeks? Even the Wall Street Journal says this tariff policy is the dumbest idea of all time.
Yeah. Best thing they said any time in the past 10 years.
Let me close by talking a little bit about draining the swamp, which is supposed to be a metaphor for profiteering off the government spending programs. The grift and the graft and corruption that's occurring since the president and his family has been outrageous. Just before inauguration, the president and his wife issued these coins. They also created this cryptocurrency investment scheme.
Don't forget the sneakers and the Bibles.
Well, that's
Now he's selling Teslas.
But this is just before he's sworn in office as president. They raked in $100 million off this, and now He wants to take your taxpayer dollars and have a crypto reserve fund.
Total fraud.
And some of you may have made, profits off of crypto, but a lot of economists say that it's a scam. Now, the graft gets really gross because you've got a Chinese national who has contributed $50 million to Trump over the last year or so. Now, in return for that, guess what he received? He had a Securities and Exchange Commission securities fraud investigation that was dropped. That's the kind of stuff that's going on. Now, Musk has contributed $288 million to Trump's election. He's now talking about putting another $100 million in Trump's kitty, or kitties. Musk has received $38 billion from Tesla, SpaceX, these are loan guarantees, these are contracts, and subsidies. Now that figure understates things because he's got defense contracts that are not on the publicly available place. So you've all seen the shakedowns that are going on at Mar-a-Lago where we invite in the health insurance industry one night, get them to write their checks so that they stay on the right side. And then we have the drug companies come in the next week. This is all public record. And it is, we've turned the swamp with gators into Godzilla, and he's just, and it's not the way our government should function. So I would like to have Congressman Bean tell us what he feels about the swamp and this kind of graft and this kind of corruption and what he's going to do to stop it.
Good evening, I'm Robin Lentz. I live at 802 Parkview Place East. I am a former public servant of our city. I served a 3-year city commission term. And I would like to agree with this gentleman that I too know Congressman Bean very well. We have run many, many miles across this city together over the course of many, many years. And I have seen a very good side. So I don't want to just stand up here and say that I don't know Aaron to be a good person. I do know him to be a good person. But what I do know lately is that he is not the Aaron Bean that I know. He is not the person that I know that will stand up and do the right thing. What I want to piggyback on, Rich discussed a lot of conflicts of interest. Okay, first of all, let's start by saying, does everyone in this room support being more efficient with your money? Does everyone support that? Thank you. Okay, that doesn't have a D beside it, or an R beside it, or a no party affiliation. That is a human trait. We all want to spend our money efficiently. What I'm tired of is the sound bites. I am tired of hearing waste, fraud, and abuse, and I have 0 receipts to show for it so far. What we do have is a lot of travesties that I've heard. Nicole just stood up here and told us about all of the things that she knows as an insider at USAID. Okay? We all know. Rich just gave a whole list of things that have been happening. So here's what I want to know is, show me, I want a written report. Do you guys remember that congressional committee report that came out about Matt Gaetz? And it was like 58 pages, and it was line by line of all the things that have been happening. I want a report like that shows me waste, fraud, and abuse.
My name is Jessie Trickett. I live at 103 South 20th Street. Been there for about 13 years. And when I came in tonight, I saw these little cards and I decided, well, I'll take one, but I didn't really have anything I was going to specifically say because I could go on for hours like so many people would like to go on about everything that's going on with our government locally as well as on the federal level. But I think the thing that really made me decide to get up and get in that line over there was after I saw that budget resolution, or heard it. I didn't see it, I heard it. And I saw that so much of the power that belongs to Congress as the first branch of government, the power of the purse, was being just given over to the president. And I thought, You know, that's insane. I mean, they can talk about all the little things they want to cut and everything, but they basically have given up on what they're supposed to be doing. And I'm saying to Mr. Bean that if that's the case, if you're giving up your major reason for being in Washington, you might as well go home. Just don't come back to District 4.
3046B, First Avenue. I do not know Aaron Bean, thank God. All I can base my opinion on of him is his actions, and his actions show me he's a bad guy. Let's not forget that he's pro-Rayonier bioethanol toxic poison plant. He's bought and paid for by Rayonier just like his son. He wants Rayonier to be allowed to poison this community's air, water, and people for their corporate profits despite overwhelming opposition amongst residents. He's in Washington much of the time. I guess he doesn't care if there's hazardous waste being released into the air and ocean here. He voted for the sea turtle. He voted against the Sea Turtle Rescue, Assistance, and Rehabilitation Act of 2023. He hates sea turtles. He'd rather give his money and support to insurrectionists and billionaires. He voted against the Save Our Seas 2.0 Amendments Act. For someone who grew up and lives at the beach, he sure hates the ocean. In fact, the League of Conservation Voters has given him a lifetime 1% score when voting on conservation and environmental issues. If you love the beach and the ocean and the dunes and the live oak trees and the gopher tortoise and the right whales and the beautiful nature we have here that's hanging on by a thread in Fernandina, Aaron Bean hates you too. And he votes against your interests, and he votes in favor of polluting industry and billionaires. He has voted against cleaner cars numerous times, against clean energy research, in favor of fracking, in favor of mining on public lands, against large government contractors having to report their emissions, against the endangered species protections many times, against energy efficiency standards for appliances, against clean water, against national monuments. He is a tried and true eco-villain. I could go on and on. He is an enemy of nature. He is at war with nature like his lords and masters, Donald Trump and Elon Musk, who want no regulations placed on industry so they can poison all of us for their profit. As a Florida legislator in 2016, he voted to approve a bill that allows members of the clergy to refuse to perform gay marriages. He also voted for the Don't Say Gay bill in Florida, a bill terrorizing non-heterosexual kids. Kids in Florida. Tough guy. He voted to make voter registration more difficult in Florida and voted to restrict vote by mail. He's staunchly anti-voting rights. He only wants rich white people to vote, preferably heterosexual men. That's his idea of America. White nationalism, anti-gay, pro-billionaire, pro-industry. He's called criminal investigations into Donald Trump, all of which have been proven true, a witch hunt. He is a mindless toady for the president. Aaron Bean is a bad guy, a villain, a freak. He is bought and paid for by polluting industry, at war with nature, governing by cruelty in lockstep with Trump and the unelected shadow president. And if he is watching on this camera, I do have a message for him.
Good evening, Mr. Bean. My name is Les Andretta. I am a retired police lieutenant from Nassau County, New York. I am also a United States Army veteran. This country promised they would take care of our veterans. They would help us in our need, in the times when we require that help. And you, sir, have turned your back on us. And I don't care how much you say you support veterans, that is a total lie. Now, I would like to ask you a question specific. A lot of things have been said here tonight. But a while ago, our president decided it was a good idea to pardon cop killers. Now, I want to know, Mr. Bean, and I want you to answer it personally. Do you denigrate Donald Trump for that action? Do you support law enforcement, or is it your position that cop killers should go free as long as they support Republican policies and the overthrow of our government? You've got a lot of people out here that are very mad at you. Very mad. You better stop and think about what you're doing. I know you're afraid of Mr. Trump, but stand up for once.
Representative Bean, what is the Congressman Bean is thinking about electric cars today.
He has a Tesla.
Yeah. Anyway, so my question, if he is listening, Congressman Bean, who do you think started the Ukrainian war?
Thanks, Mary.
My name is Margaret Weeks. I live at 1603 Canterbury Lane here in Fernandina Beach. I'm very passionate about education. I was an educator for 17 years, and I continue to serve as an educational consultant for the National Science Foundation. I'm appalled at the recent move by the Department of Education to defund the University of North Florida's $7 million grant to address teacher shortages. These grants are crucial to making sure we have a well-educated and, yes, diverse teacher population. I urge Congressman Bean to fight these and other decisions that are undermining universities and their teacher preparation programs. Furthermore, I am sickened by the dismantling of the Department of Education. I cannot help but wonder why this is happening. Is it because some view education as a waste of money since it exposes fraud and prevents abuse of American minds? That's actually a quote from Ibram Kendi, one of my heroes. Is it that some want a country of believers, not thinkers? Yes. I am worried for my grandchildren and what kind of education they will receive in this country. Some of you may have noticed the button I'm wearing. It says, ignoring it is what the Germans did. So I'll be standing out in the back. So if you want one, first 100.
My name is Beth Heber. I live at 35497 Braddock Road. I'm from Callahan, Florida. I am a retired teacher, and Representative Bean, I'd like to speak on behalf of the National Park Service. When I'm talking about national parks, I'm including all national parks, national monuments, national historic sites, and other National Park Service sites. There are several national park sites in Northeast Florida: Fort Caroline National Memorial and Kingsley Plantation in Jacksonville, Castillo de San Marcos, and Fort Matanzas in St. Augustine. These are public lands, and they belong to all Americans. In 2023, over 325 million people visited national park sites. And the annual budget for the Park Service last year in 2024 was $3.325 billion. This is only 1/15 of 1% of the national budget. And it should be noted that the economic output from national parks into our national economy was $55.6 billion.
$26.4 billion of these dollars went into gateway communities, and the national parks supported 415,000 jobs. The Great Smoky Mountains National Park, the most visited national park in our country, had 13.3 million visitors in 2023. Yet employees of this park and other parks were fired by Elon Musk and his Department of Government Efficiency. Representative Bean, I'd like to know what national park sites have you visited? And I have asked you this before, but he never answers me. And please explain why Park Service employees were summarily fired. And finally, how is this an efficiency given the numbers I listed above? Thank you.
Fafard, I live at 318 Tranquil Trail Circle. I have two questions. First question is, will you lead an effort in the House to restore the division of power between the executive, the judicial, and the legislative branch? And if you will not lead that effort, explain to me as a voter why not. The second question I have is the continuing resolution that was passed by the House, now given to the Senate, most likely will pass. Not sure. Hopefully it won't. But it will result in September in a vote that will increase our federal deficit by approximately $4.2 trillion without appropriate tax increases to the most wealthy of this country. Will you support that or not? That's a yes or no question, Congressman. And I would like to know what the answer is. My last comment is, I have voted for the past 50 years. I have not missed one vote, and I will not miss the next vote.
Mark Canad. I moved down here to Nassau County only about 3 years ago. They had a house about 5 years ago, but moved down from Atlanta. I was a trial lawyer there. One of the things that you never hear them say, whether on Fox News or anything else, is what are some of the facts? Aaron, here's some facts we haven't heard of for you, but I'm going to give you a couple. And this is from Charles Gabba. If anybody wants to look it up, he's a data specialist. He does research. He has looked at every single congressional district, including Aaron's, in the entire state of Florida, and he has made a determination of how many constituents in that jurisdiction, in this district, are being affected by some of the decisions that are going to be made. He does a pie chart. I encourage everybody to look it up. It's on Blue Sky. His name is Charles Gabba. He's an expert. But here's one of the things I think everybody needs to know. Aaron never talks about Medicare. Notice when he does his little things, it's like, I'm only going to cut Medicare, or I'm not going to cut Medicare, I'm not going to cut or Social Security, whatever. Medicaid, ready? Here's Medicaid. There are 151,994 constituents on Medicaid. Are you going to cut that? That's one thing I want to know. Medicare FFS. 66,530. Medicare ADV, 69,982. Are you going to cut that? Because Elon, your tech bro, is making it sound like that's going to get cut, and he's making it sound like Social Security. If you're the co-chair of the DOGE caucus, why don't you know this? Why don't you know it? ACA, the Affordable Care Act. A lot of people, oh, I don't know this, that. 121,999 constituents in your district, Aaron, in your district are on that. So start talking about cutting that. But let's not forget about the kids. Those kids that are growing up in a situation where mom and dad are divorced, kids live with mom, she's working 2-3 jobs, running food, and DoorDash, and so her kid has something to eat, but needs a little bit of help with lunch, school lunches. In this jurisdiction, for under the CHIP, the Florida for Kid Care. 6,890. 6,890. And I just give you those facts, but I'm gonna put this, now I apologize because I'm talking too long. What I really came here to talk about is the rule of law. That's what I came here to talk about. Let me tell you why. I was a trial lawyer in Georgia for 30 plus years, almost 34 years. I've been a prosecutor, I've been a public defender, and I was a defense lawyer. I represented judges, cops, you name it. Good guys, right? The good guys. Bad guys alike. I don't get this. We're going back and we're talking about where 60-some cases were decided by the courts. Trump lost all of those, and we're still talking about stop the steal. Stop the steal. We're still talking about give it a break. But when it comes to the rule of law, and this is really important to me, the President of the United States is going after law firms now because who people represent. No, it gets way better than that. Pam Bondi, who was the Attorney General in Florida, your body is now the AG. They are firing inspector generals in the Department of Justice. They're going after the prosecutors. They're going after the prosecutors. What do you think they're going to do to any of us? You think they care a lot? They're going after people, Federalist Society members, lifelong Republicans. And Aaron, let me tell you something. I'm registered as a Democrat right now, and I have been for 3 years since I came down here. I wasn't when I was in Georgia. I was up in Forsyth County, Georgia, if any of y'all ever knew that, in a metro. Doesn't have the best reputation in the world. But I was up there. And I saw the different people, and I saw how things started to change. And I'm going to tell you a couple of things that happened, especially back in 2020. We had the elections, Biden gets elected through. There were a few people that got elected that a lot of people don't talk about. And they're up there in Georgia. 2 of them are senators. One of them is Warnock, and the other one is Austin. Nobody thought they were going to win. I know, I was friends with the Republicans. In fact, just in case you want to know, you can check the registration. I was registered as a Republican up there. You know why? Because that's what you're supposed to do. Right? That's okay. You got a business, oh no, you got to be on the right side of things. And you can still vote for whoever you want, but look at that. Well, in 2000, there's a number of people, but the last 3 Republicans that ran, Kelly Loeffler, David Perdue, Doug Collins, lost. They all lost. I'm getting there. He's my ticket because you're from Georgia. They all lost. But what happens? Doug Collins, who could not win a Senate election in the state of Georgia, is now the head of the VA. Kelly Loeffler is the head of something. Who knows what that is? She's the head of something. And then we got Herschel Walker, right? He's an ambassador. But guess who else lost? David Perdue. David Perdue lost. He's an ambassador now, too.
He lost twice.
Oh, yes, he did. Well, he also ran against Kemp and lost. And that takes me to somebody else. I came from a district, Forsyth County. The lieutenant governor of previous to the currently has as a Republican, his name was Jeff Duncan. And Jeff Duncan spoke at the Democratic National Convention, right? He's the one, he stood up, he talked, he spoke about it. And my point is this. Not everybody, because I saw you before say hire Democrats and Democrats were on the news, and I'm going to get going now. I take people with their word, because they're really nice people in this community, that you are an honest person and you're a good person. And I'm asking you to reconsider. This whole DOGE bro, Elon Musk fanboy stuff needs to end.
In Jacksonville, is it too much?
You got it. Yeah, there it is.
You know what short people cover? You're good. You know, this is all our fault.
This is all of our fault because we believed what we thought was the truth. Democrats, Republicans, not everybody, but a majority have voted to get these people in government. Now, we have a Republican, everything is like the Senate, the House, President, they're all Republican, and we're getting what we've asked for. There's a saying, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. We have a vote, excuse me, that's if we still have it come 2 years from now, where we all have to remember, do we believe what we're hearing, or are we going to believe what we're seeing and feeling and vote accordingly?
My name is Robert Burge, 31135 Paradise Commons. It's a Fernandina Beach address. I love living in Fernandina Beach, even though I'm off the island. Everybody up north thinks I live in a beach. I was going to go through, just name a list, not deal any facts, but all of them have been mentioned already. But there are two things in particular that I'd like to mention, some facts, before I read from the Wall Street Journal from yesterday. First, about federal employees. I used to be a federal employee, and I have no doubt they do good work. It's the most nonpartisan thing you can imagine. It's crazy. But there are no excess federal employees. In 1984, what's that, 40 years ago? There were 2.08 million federal employees. In 2023, there were 2.1 million. And the population's gone up by 40% since then. The budget's probably quadrupled since then. Of the federal workforce, only 1 out of every 3 is a federal employee. 2/3, because of all this privatization, are private contractors. And I have yet to hear what the pro-crypto fascist Trump and his 21st century Hitler youth, DOGE boys, are doing to eliminate all those private contractors that are making millions of dollars. On Medicaid, and a couple of things were mentioned. I especially appreciate the facts about this district, which is important. They hate Medicaid recipients, poor people. Nearly 1 out of every 5 Americans gets their health care from Medicaid. They all want people to work. 2 out of every 3 people on Medicaid right now are employed, either full-time or part-time, usually at minimum wage or low-paying jobs, so they qualify for health care. What an idea. Medicaid fraud, and there is a lot of it, we keep hearing about it, a lot of Medicare fraud too. It's usually by the provider. No recipient is lying to get a colonoscopy. Now, this is yesterday's. I want to talk straight to Congressman Bean. I thought he'd be here tonight. In fact, I have to apologize for yelling out earlier. I thought this was his event. When you were talking, I thought you were from Bean's office. That's why I was trying to disagree with your propaganda when we went through this crap.
I assure you, he does not want me in his office.
Well, I want to talk to Congressman Bean directly, and I hoped he would be here so I could say it to him directly. This is yesterday's Wall Street Journal. The article is by a guy named Gerard Baker. I think they call him Jerry. Editorial page. He writes 2 or 3 times a week. He used to be the editor-in-chief of the Wall Street Journal. He's a conservative's conservative. But a short while ago, when Trump announced he was negotiating with Hamas, even butt boy Lindsey Graham said, well, I trust Trump. Of course, I think it's insane, but I trust Trump. Well, that was the start of this article. And the headline, which applies to you, Mr. Bean, Capitol Hill's Republican Sycophant Caucus. He starts out just about Lindsey Graham. He says, Lindsey Graham this week cheerfully declared the unconditional surrender of not only his own judgment, his freedom of thought, his relevance, and his dignity, but, and this one really matters, his role as a leading member of one of the elected branches of the government. Baker goes on to talk about Ukraine and some of the issues. He says, to be sure, a small number of Republicans have spoken out. But the rhetorical question stands, because I know, as well as you know, he's talking to us, the readers, the vast majority of Republican senators and some representatives, if they were sequestered in a locked room and given a truth serum, would say that the president's pursuit of a ruinous and incoherent trade policy assault on Canada, backed by the manic threat of forced annexation, the punishment handed out to Volodymyr Zelensky in Ukraine, the expressions of solidarity with Vladimir Putin in Russia, and the apparent determination to emasculate the North Atlantic Treaty Organization and casually dismiss the security pact with Japan are mad, bad, and dangerous acts of national self-harm. That's what our president has been doing for the last 2 months. Now here, Mr. Bean, is where he talks about you directly in the concluding paragraph. He doesn't mention you by name, but this goes for 99% of the Republicans in Congress. Again, this is Jerry Baker. I know why so many lawmakers sit by and watch as the arson of Trump unfolds. Fear for their jobs. I am sure they rationalize their complacence by thinking their political future is indispensable to the nation.
Sycophants.
But there must be more who harbor a deeper fear of what history will make of them if they don't speak up now about the wanton vandalism to the country they were elected to protect. Mr. Bean, we hear you're a good person. I don't know you.
But maybe not a good politician.
Well, no, he's a good politician. That's the point. You know what's so funny? He's scared to death of Trump because a tweet, would put him under. But you know who he's scared of? His own voters. Because he knows he can't tell the truth and get these people to believe it. Mr. Bean, I hear you're a good person, but you are either colossally stupid or one of these cowards who fear for their jobs. And I don't think you're stupid, Mr. Bean. That makes you a coward. Think about it, Mr. Bean. Think about what history will say about your gutless cowardice and hypocrisy. Gerrymandering may keep you in office. Partisan gerrymandering may keep you in office. But it can't keep you from looking in the mirror every day and knowing It is a political coward you see looking back at you. I think my number's in the book. Give me a call if I made a mistake.
Thank you.
Good evening. Hi. My name is Natalie Wojtak, and I'm a proud resident of Fernandina Beach. I live at 95142 Periwinkle Place. That's in Ulandina, OTB. I've lived in Florida since 2003, and I've called Nassau County home for the last 13 years. Tonight, I come before all of you with this deep sense of urgency. I have young kids that I'm trying to raise through this, and I don't know what to say to them when we watch the news. As our elected representative, you are entrusted, Senator Bean, who is not here but I hope is watching, with the responsibility of being a voice for all of us here in your community. It is your duty to stand up for the people of your district, for the children of your district, and not to simply rubber stamp any legislation that is handed down by your party leadership, especially when that legislation is blatantly unconstitutional. The people of Nassau County are hardworking individuals, many of whom rely on programs like Medicaid, Medicare, and WIC to make ends meet. That doesn't mean that they're mooching off the system. That means that they need to bridge that gap. These programs are not luxuries, they are lifelines. Cutting them or undermining them hurts the most vulnerable members of our community. While it is one thing to audit these programs for potential areas of improvement, it is entirely another to send in unelected billionaires and tech executives to manipulate sensitive data and halt distributions of funds illegally allocated by Congress. One of the most troubling aspects of the current political climate is the proposed cuts to Medicare. Medicare is not just a safety net for the elderly. It is a promise that we make to our seniors, many of whom have worked their entire lives to earn access to that health care. Slashing this program would not only jeopardize the health of our senior citizens, but it would further burden our already stretched thin healthcare system, leading to more problems down the line. Additionally, the cuts to the Department of Education are deeply concerning. In our district, many schools depend on Title I funds to ensure that every child has access to a quality education. These funds are what allow our schools to provide the programs that support and help students excel. When that funding is threatened, it is our children who suffer the most. You know firsthand how important education is, especially when it comes to the opportunity for future success, and we cannot afford to turn our backs on our children. The President's decision to withhold federal funds from institutions that disagree with his agenda is equally alarming. This kind of punitive action stifles the abilities of schools, communities, and local governments to make decisions that best suit their needs. These heavy-handed threats only serve to deepen the divide in our country and to sow more chaos, making it harder for anyone to focus on the real work of serving the American people. We cannot ignore the attacks on the essential services that protect our environment. I know this was already touched upon, but our national parks are a treasure, not just for Florida, but for the entire nation. Slashing funding to these critical programs means that we risk losing the very natural resources that make this country great. These parks are not just for us, they are for future generations to enjoy. These are for your children and your grandchildren and your great-grandchildren. We cannot allow them to be neglected and abandoned. The slashing of government jobs is not a path to prosperity. Our public servants, whether they are teachers, police officers, civil servants, military, FAA, right here in our community, they are the backbone of our community. They work tirelessly to keep us safe, to educate our children, and to make our lives better. Cutting their jobs and cutting their benefits hurts everyone. Lastly, I'd like to address a matter that has been a growing concern. I've heard it addressed tonight, but I'd like to speak on it as well. This is the issue of the illegal use of DOGE and the broader implications of these unregulated digital currencies. These practices not only raise serious legal concerns, but they serve to destabilize our financial system and expose us to unnecessary risks. We need regulations that ensure the safety and security of our economy, and ignoring these issues will lead to serious further damage. Representative Bean, you are in a position to stand up for the people of Nassau County and beyond. You are there to represent the best interests of your constituents, not to follow along with decisions that harm our families and communities. We are counting on you to be a voice for us in Washington and to fight for policies that promote equity, fairness, and opportunity for all. Most importantly, please work to stop the overreach of the executive branch. Please do not let us down. Thank you.
I'm John Miller, J.T. Miller. I've been in politics, well, first before I go on that, I'm going to make it short, don't worry. I've been in, I take exception with speaker before me saying that Aaron Bean was a good person.
My opinion.
Yeah, that is an opinion, but here's my opinion. Anybody that would knowingly hurt women, children, disabled, seniors, and veterans is not a good person. But anyway, I've been in politics since I was 12 years old. Kennedy for president. I never turned back. I'm a Democrat. I'm from California. I live here now. And I'm proud of that. But when you sign up in politics, the ones here that are politically active and the ones that aren't, I'm telling you. When you sign up for politics, you know one thing. It's tough. I was in the labor movement. I was in the Democratic movement, the labor movement from 12 years up till now. When you sign up for it, day one, you find out it's tough. It's bare knuckles. And you gotta be thick-skinned. And this is what I'm kind of getting to the Congressman Bean. He knew that as well as I know that, and any other Paul. So what I'm going to ask him is, when are you going to man up and come down here and face us? Congressman, you knew what this arena was when you got in there. So now come and face the constituents. Like, you know, all you Republicans in Congress are cowards. But anyway, that's what I wanted to know. Come down, face us, one-on-one, and I don't think anybody's going to hurt you. Okay, thank you very much.
Been down here for about 30 years. I'm a retired nurse anesthetist. Couple questions. What are you going to do for us, Representative Bean? How can we believe you when you voted against the FEMA package that was voted in last year? You voted against it. And a couple weeks later, we had hurricanes, 2 in the state of Florida. That's number one. And when are you going to show up at one of these town halls? My next thing is the reason that Elon Musk and his DOGE crew are where they are is because of Citizens United. Citizens United started all this money in politics. He bought the presidency, $260 million. So now he feels he can do and say whatever he wants. And this is, if anybody has ever seen the movie The Hunger Games, we're living in the Hunger Games where the rich are pitting the poor against each other. And this is not going to go well for us because this is all about chaos. This whole presidency is about retribution and chaos. And we're all in it. If you didn't vote for him, we're still in it. So my other issue is Elon Musk. Heard this on TV the other night, my favorite MSNBC show. And the end game is for him to be over the FAA. He's got SpaceX, he's got Starlink, and if he gets rid of all these air traffic controllers and all the people who are, have been successfully guiding the planes to take off and land, what's to say if he becomes the head of the FAA that he can't ground all the passengers? See, so when you have that kind of control and power and money, that's scary. And this is all about chaos. But, Representative Bean, tell us what you're going to do about Social Security. Because if you didn't vote for that bill last year for FEMA, how can we trust you that you are going to protect us from Social Security, with Social Security, Medicaid, and Medicare? Thank you.
My name is Arlene Philcoff. The first thing I want to say is I am so proud to be in such a woke group. It's really, it does my heart good to know that there are this many of us, because sometimes these days it feels pretty hopeless and pretty quiet and pretty alone, and that has a lot to do with the fact that we, if we are all Democrats or whatever we are, if we're woke, or we have any human empathy.
We're Americans.
Yes.
We're American.
We are all Americans here in Fernandina Beach. And Aaron, I hope that for sure you are watching. I was once a mayor, as you were once a mayor. This community came together last election and overturned some seats on our local commission that nobody thought we could do. I really hope that you're paying attention and not just giving this lip service, because we are all your constituents, regardless of what letter goes after our name. You know, I wish that Republicans, for the most part, would look at what the Founding Fathers wanted. They do it all the time when it's something they like gun control, right? Yeah, because we were given a constitutional right to that. Well, you know, the Founding Fathers didn't even want political parties. They said that the party system would endanger this country, and I see that happening. Because there is one party that doesn't believe their constituents are all human, apparently. And now I find out that I can't be called in this new America a woman. I have to be called, and this is going to mess with their heads, because they're going to try to call me a childbearing adult, and that ship sailed. So I don't know what you're going to call me now. But I do want this DOGE thing to get over itself. I worked in corporate America for 25 years, where we forced many times to find waste, to find ways to cut back on the budget, to find ways to work more efficiently. Absolutely, we had to do it every year. And we had to do it with a process that was analytical and proved our point. There was a plan. And I don't see anything like that going on right here. I see it being managed the same way a reality show is managed. That appears to be the only expertise being involved. Oh, and a chainsaw. You can operate a chainsaw.
It wasn't actually on.
Think that out here in Fernandina, think that this DOGE thing is a good thing, because they're finding all these people that weren't working anyway, I'm told. Well, there is a young woman in this community who is affected by this. This young woman, some of you may have known her. She worked for the city of Fernandina for a while. She worked in the planning department. Her name is Taylor Hartman. I asked permission to use her name. She said, sure. She couldn't be here tonight because she's on a Zoom call with an attorney trying to figure out what her options are. Taylor was an employee for the Department of Transportation, a probationary employee for the Department of Transportation. Taylor has been in a wheelchair since an accident in her early 20s rendered her necessary to be in a wheelchair. She got a job working for the Department of Transportation because they came looking for her because she was instrumental in helping the city of Fernandina Beach work with the railroad and with the Department of Transportation to get the crossings on Front Street fixed. Right? Because if anybody knows about accessibility, oh, that's a bad word. Wheelchair issues. If anybody knows about that, it would be Taylor. Well, she tells me that not only, of course, and by now we know that the probationary employees were terminated with a termination reason of performance issue, which means she can't even get unemployment. Right? So now she has no income. She's living by herself in her wheelchair with no job and a termination reason of performance. How likely is she going to get another job? And the next thing that goes is Medicaid, which she was able to use to get herself a vehicle that she can drive to her job herself. Ain't going to be there anymore. So all they're trying to do right now, they're only telling her that they can try to get the termination reason changed. That's it. That's all that can happen. So this affects us right here. It affects all of us right here. And Aaron, I have called your office. The little lady named Christine, I think, is a sweetheart. I had shared my feelings with her multiple times. She knows my name now as soon as the number comes up. If you don't have an app on your phone called 5 calls, you need to get it. And use it. Call them all the time. First of all, Scott doesn't answer his phone at all. That's a machine. Ashley Moody, I don't know, is she real? Because nobody answers that phone except somebody mechanical. And Aaron, to your credit, you have real people answering the phone. They are probably ready to stick a needle in their eye. We need to get this fixed. Send DOGE back to the drawing board and have them do the right thing, Aaron. And please come home every once in a while and show your face. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Dr. Shonda Nicole Hosley, 2441 Pinehurst Lane, Fleming Island, Florida. I came from Clay County, and like some of you, yeah, I have, hey Jackie, I have written the office and asked for a call back, or I want to meet with him in April. I haven't heard back, so I said, he's been invited, maybe he'll come here. But he isn't, so I'm going to leave this message for him. So I earned the opportunity to manage a comfortable life in a suburban area. But before I was able to do that, I benefited from, come from humble beginnings. I was raised in South Central Los Angeles, urban area. And I benefited from programs that help with the war on poverty, like Head Start. Food stamps before it became SNAP. But I earned an education. My mom told us that education was the key to success. So I was incensed to learn that H.R. 899 had been reintroduced, the bill to eliminate the Department of Education. Those changes will decrease federal funding from public schools, eliminate support for children with disabilities, and eliminate the enforcement of civil rights protection in education and negatively impact student loan programs. Mr. Bean, why would we do that? You're planning to hurt your constituents. Education should not be privatized. A man said, one of the speakers here, he left, but he said something about they hate poor people. Well, sometimes it helps to put a face to a characterization. I was poor. I grew up poor. But quality education gave me the pathway to a successful life. All right. So cutting those types of programs will hurt others that can also have that pathway. So just as a proud Head Start alum, I'm asking Mr. Bean and others, don't cut those programs and services that helps the underserved. We rise by lifting others. I truly believe that. So, hopefully, I'm going to send you another message, and hopefully you'll be able to meet with me in April when I come to Delta Days at the Capitol.
Lori Humke, 751 Barrington Drive. And some of the moves that I just heard is because many of you, not those of you from Clay County, I've seen in many different places. Because one of the things that I want to say first is thank you for organizing. Yes. But secondly, it shows how this community does come out. And the reason why I know so many faces is because I see you out. Because one of the things that I've learned about this community is that we come out and we learn from our officials, whether it be staff, whether it be elected officials, about what's the underlying, what are the details that go into running Nassau County. I'm assuming you Clay County people have the same thing, right? And so I didn't really come to talk about that. Well, actually I did a little bit. But the real thing that I could talk for hours about is what two people before me talked about, and that is education. I'm a retired special educator, 40 years. My first contract said, typed on ditto paper, for those of you who are in my age group, Ms. Hemke will have a job as long as 94-142 is funded. And that's what IDEA was called. And IDEA was about civil rights. Our first job in Atlanta, Macon, Miami, Montgomery County is to bring kids out of institutions. Kids that had disabilities were either at home or they were in institutions. That's what special ed did. That's what we've been doing. That's why Taylor is out and Taylor's comfortable with us saying her name. Because those of you who are younger than I am grew up very comfortable with children and adults with special needs just being in the community. And we're going to lose that, and we're going to let that go. The person who talks about caring for kids, this is what we're going to let go. Really? And these kids, believe me, many don't have the voice. The voice is here. The voice is their parents, their siblings who also have to care for them. But that's not really what I came to talk. But that's one passion, to have a list of them. My second passion is being involved. This morning, I had the honor of being a citizen participant in the Nassau County Local Mitigation Stakeholders Meeting. Clay County has one of those too. So this is all your leaders, infrastructure leaders who were there. It's led by Nassau EM, that's our one voice. It's your school representative, health department, police, fire, Callahan, somebody said Callahan, Hilliard. You name the organization. This room is filled with these people,
And they do the local mitigation plan because we have these things called natural disasters, not just hurricanes. We could list all the others. And this is the group who prepares for that. And you would not believe this team in action, okay? And I've been going to their meetings for 2, maybe 3 years. But I say this because I can celebrate them. We would all have questions about their individual jobs, but you know what you hear when you sit there this morning? You hear accountability. Yes. You hear how they are accountable to each other. Every grant that is available, these people are looking at what the detailed needs are, how the money's going to be spent, and it's not just Callahan advocating for Callahan, it's Fernandina working with Callahan, it's Hilliard working with Fernandina, it's the stormwater people for the county working with Fernandina Beach. Why is that important? Because it's accountability, it's working together as a team, it's calling people out if they're not using the funds appropriately. Is that not what we're looking for? Is that not why I go to the meetings? Is because I want to hear that accountability? What is this DOGE thing then? What is this Elon Musk thing? We already know how to be accountable. And if Congress is not doing it, or they have people on staff that are not accountable, that's on you. Because we know how to do it. We know how to do it.
My name is Libby Drury, and I live at 138 North 19th Street. And I'm addressing Aaron Bean, our congressman. I don't know if you know what that little hat symbolizes.
Waldo.
Where's Waldo? Where is Aaron Bean? Okay, we've had a number of congregating to meet Mr. Bean. We have been at his office, and we were promised that we were going to get a meeting with you, and one of your staffers said he would arrange a meeting. We then decided to come to 14th and Jasmine last weekend to meet you, where you were giving a dedication for the drop-in center. A wonderful photo op, may I add. And we were not able to meet you then. And I really think this meeting was planned before you got the instructions from Donald Trump that there would be no legislators doing town meetings. So that was a pass for you. But I really think that all these different attempts to get you to come, I think it's about time to man up and meet with your constituents. And I realize that you probably have wonderful qualities, but I don't know if this is just about you being a wannabe, but there's just too much at stake here with people in your county, and it's about time that you respond to us and arrange for a meeting. Thank you.
I'm Joseph Rogers. I live at 86158 Cardinal Road in Eula. I'm 75 years old. That's 3/4 of a century. Actually, I'm older than that. If there's one thing that would characterize my life, it would be that I have been a student. I've been learning things my entire life. When I was young, things moved very slowly. Now things move very quickly. For a while I had a question I wanted to ask, but I realized that my answer would be a vomited word salad, that I would not be able to identify any of the components. So what I want to tell you is, you are creating a mass of population which has nothing left to lose. Yes. And you wanted a revolution. That's what you wish for, because You don't know who we are, but we all know who you are. And I want you to share this with all your friends in Washington. Because a revolution will come, and it is not going to take hundreds of years like it used to. Thank you.
And my husband and I are actually new to Yulee. We moved up from Jacksonville, so we're happy to be here and part of this wonderful community.
Thank you.
And I know all of us are very tense. I don't know about your household, but our household has been very tense lately. And we're scared. And Congressman Bean, you need to understand that. I grew up trusting in my country, trusting in my elected officials to protect me and my family and my freedom. And the things I'm seeing are very concerning. So I want to read some notes that I have. You know, America's always been the hallmark of democracy, the home of the courageous, right? Our shores have always been the refuge of freedom and justice for all. And I'm seriously concerned about Trump's approach to foreign policy, alienating and turning our backs on our allies and wooing dictators and communist leaders like they're some kind of heroes, eliminating all the aid that we provide around the world that promotes democracy and will keep the world safe. That's what we do. That's what Americans have done. We help those who can't help themselves. I'm ashamed of the decisions that have been made right now in that area. I'm ashamed. My grandfather escaped Russia during the reign of Stalin, and his dream was to come to America. This is a dream. I think he kissed the ground when he got here. He was so proud to be an American citizen. Congressman Bean, I beseech you to step up and be courageous. Truly represent your constituents in your district, all of us. Protect our nation, save our democracy. Do not negate your obligation and pledge to serve your American citizens and keep us safe. I ask you, what are you going to do to protect our Constitution and the freedom and safety of our nation?
2865 West 6th Street. I'm pretty sure that most people in this room are aware of what an incredible fraud, what a con the whole DOGE thing is. There's been a lot of talk about fraud and abuse, but there hasn't been one conviction. There hasn't been one example pulled in front of the press and shown as a provable. Somebody earlier said, where are the receipts? But the thing that I really wanted to talk about was not just the abdication of Congress, but the abdication of our fourth estate. Legacy media and has been asleep at the switch the whole time. We're going through this crazy period of upset here. And every time someone's on the news talking about $1 million here or even $1 billion here, that DOGE is clawing back, it should immediately be mentioned that the $2 million that DOGE might uncover is going to be dwarfed by the extension of the Trump tax cuts. It's never mentioned on the press. The press is asleep at the switch. They started out by normalizing the crazy behavior of our current leader, and now they refuse to tell the whole story about these alleged savings that we're having. They're all going to be dwarfed by the extension of the tax cuts for the extremely wealthy. And I don't know what there is to do about it, but we're watching the fourth estate asleep at the switch. It's very disturbing.
Thank you, Chuck. And Chris, who's been videoing this event for us today, he would like to add one last thing before we close here.
To at least explain stuff from what I've learned.
before doing all the video stuff, I've been doing solar and batteries and stuff like that. I used to work for Tesla for 5 years or so, and then when the Model 3 came out, they wanted to bring out the base price. So they had a whole meeting and email to all of us, and then the next week they had a tweet that, oh yeah, the Model 3 is going to come out at the base price, and we're going to move all of our sales to online. And I was working in DC, like right next to the White House, and they just shut down our showroom. And then we got a nice little email saying, thank you for your service for 4 years and goodbye. So, I mean, I got a nice package, yeah, but at the same time, it was not about the why. Like a lot of the people that were working for Elon and for the solar side of things were all about the why, the helping one or two people, or that at the end of the day, making it an easier day instead of trying to sell some shit. I'm not going to talk about solar. But yeah, their mentality has become, since they've gotten to that very high billionaire level, is they need to cull 10% or so every quarter, every 6 months, every year, just to keep fresh blood coming through. They don't care. And that's one of the biggest things that I've really learned over a lot of my career is nobody cares what you know until they know that you care. And they are showing it extremely well that they do not care, and they only care about themselves, the product that they're putting out, as far as Tesla or for SpaceX or for the government. They don't care about the protections and the common good. They're caring about themselves and themselves only. So why should we keep voting them in? It's all about power, and we need to learn that we have more power.
Hi, I'm Maureen Ramsey, 515 Starboard Landing. I'm relatively new to Fernandina Beach. We've lived here for almost 4 years. I also went to Head Start. So I just want you, Aaron Bean, Aaron Bean, to know, like, I went to Head Start. I am the daughter of a single parent. My father died when I was young. It was an unfortunate situation. Grew up poor. I put myself through high school, went to college, went and worked for Microsoft for 20 years. I had a very successful life. I raised 2 kids. I'm also raising someone else's kid. I'm married. I'm all the things that we say we want for our society, where we provide these services. This is what we want. We want people to take advantage of them and be successful. I am successful. What I want to know is, why are you trying to tear it down? I just don't understand. I just don't understand. You put these programs in place to help people, to give them a leg up, and you're literally tearing them down. This is the American dream. I just don't understand it. So my question is to you, why do you hate the American people? Why are you doing this? What does this serve? And I do want transparency, because also as a data analyst, I want to understand all these things that you have found. Where is the evidence of any savings?
Thank you, Lauren. Guys, first of all, I just want to say a lot of people criticize me for speaking all the time and talking about things that I find to be important, and I do those things because I feel like it's the only thing that I can do.